All right, welcome back to another episode of the Don't Worry, Nobody's Listening podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jason Benicki Critchlow, and I'm joined again by...
Todd.
He's just not my favorite person in the world today. We'll probably get into that maybe later in this episode or the next episode. We'll see. But as always, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music. We're on Spotify now, so you can even take us with you when you're streaming on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. It's always on the Facebook page. So, again, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter at JASONBANICKI. And, of course, the Facebook page is Don't Worry, Nobody's Listening podcast. So, again, give it a like, share it with your friends, help us grow our audience. We appreciate it. Plugging right along. And then, like I said, I'm going to do this my way, the whole way. I don't give a shit if anybody listens or not. It's kind of a strange way to do a creative endeavor, but it's mine. It's mine. It's mine. We're going to remind you. So this week, I'm going to start by talking. I worked up a NBA mock draft. I asked Todd to do one, but apparently, that was too much to ask of him, since he was busy, not prepping for his move this week. But like I said, we'll get into that moving thing either later this episode or next. We'll see how long we go. But anyways, so for my mock draft, what I did is I assumed no trades, went with the draft order as it was, reviewed every team's roster, what I thought their holes were, where their opportunities were, and drafted the player as if I was the GM of that team making that pick for everything. So this isn't who I think they're going to take necessarily. This isn't who I think the best player is, so this isn't like a big board view of things, but I actually looked at the rosters, looked at things, and I'll even made notes and give you my reasoning behind it, and then we'll listen for Todd's feedback and see if he has anything to actually say, since he did zero prep work for this. And yes, this is kind of how his day's gone. He's had to spend, at least since, we'll call 5:30, and we're recording this at about 10:30, kind of being browbeaten and mocked by me because of how ill-prepared he was to move this weekend. And
I was prepared.
95 fucking degrees out with 95% humidity here in the upper Midwest. It was just not the right time for any of this lack of preparedness.
And any draft that he does where there's no trades is not a draft that he would accept, because he was really dealing. He'd try to get the first, second, third, or he'd trade down because there's nothing there.
That's true. But again, I'm just saying, as if again, I'm not also going to be 25 teams GMs either in any draft, no matter how hard I try. And this isn't 2K. This is, the mock draft. So with the Phoenix Suns at number 1, amazingly, I'm going to go with who most likely is going to be their pick, which is DeAndre Ayton. And realistically, they have Devin Booker already. You got a perimeter scorer, guy who's a stud scorer out on the perimeter. You got Josh Jackson, who can be a stretch 4 in a small lineup, who can play 3 if you want to go big. But you have no post scorers. Even if you look at all the guys they've drafted post player-wise, Dragon Bender hasn't turned into a scorer. I can't even think of the other guys because they've all flopped that hard. Alex Len is already about ready to restricted free agency, and you're still like, is he good or isn't he? So when you have a guy who could be a once-in-a-generation post scorer, I think you have to take him when you have the number 1 overall pick, when you've already got a 3-4 on the roster and a solid 2.
So you don't take the 6'9" point guard?
I don't. I thought about it. But realistically, I think, playmakers are a little easier to find. And again, Luka Doncic, as well as he played in Europe, does have some athleticism questions. So, I could have justified it, particularly with his coach there in Phoenix. It would have been easier to justify.
Right.
But I think ultimately it just came down to, you have a chance to take a once-in-a-generation post scorer, and you have nothing in the post on the roster now. You try to fix that.
Because we brought him up, are you ready for the decision part 2? Or part 3, I don't know if you want to. He's announcing if he's coming to the NBA or not live on ESPN.
No, he's already declared he's staying in the draft.
They just had a commercial about it that he was going to do a live announcement.
He's already said he's coming to the league, so he's staying in the draft. I think ESPN is just looking for things to make people to watch because it's ESPN and nobody gives a shit anymore. And that's why they tried to launch this ESPN Plus streaming app That's $5 a month for stuff that they're not even going to put on the regular ESPN stuff, and you don't get the regular ESPN stuff on the app. It makes no goddamn sense. Don't get me started on ESPN. Like, Disney is great at making cash grabs, and that's what they're doing with this ESPN Plus. But it's like, there's nothing on regular ESPN I care to watch, so I'm not really going to subscribe to cable again to get ESPN. And it's now worth $15 a month. I mean, about $5 a month I would have paid to get all the ESPN channels on a streaming service. But
don't piss off the mouse. The mouse will come get you while you sleep.
I mean, they're going to make money doing it, and it's what ESPN does. It's what Disney does. Disney prints money. Like, yes. I mean, they bought Star Wars for about $4 billion. They've made that back already. In 4 movies in 4 years. They know how to make money. I don't doubt their ability to make money.
Sacramento on the clock? They
are. And I'm not so this is where I buck the trend of the sliding Luka Doncic, and he comes off the board at number 2. They've already got bigs in Sacramento. You've got guys like Scala, BCA, Willie Cauley-Stein, Harry Giles, guys they've taken in the last 3 drafts at the bigs. They also have Buddy Hield for a spot up shooter. You got De'Aaron Fox for your speedy playmaker at the point. But they lack any wings at all on their roster. They have none. So the fact that their GM's talking in real life about taking a big is ridiculous. And they don't have a secondary playmaker. Plus, I think if you let Doncic be your primary playmaker and make De'Aaron Fox your secondary, where he can be cutting and to the rim and using Buddy Hield to space, and Doncic can be a spot-up shooter as well, I think you make your team stronger that way. And then, again, they're still a little ways from contention, but who knows? But I think that's the best fit for their roster. I don't see them taking them. Rumors have them everywhere across the board, but that's my thoughts. I think he makes the best fit for their roster going forward.
I'm not sure who 3 is at this point.
Well, I didn't know if you had any thoughts on.
The only thing I can think of is Vlade picks him because he's from Europe. I mean, that's my key of it. Is Vlade likes him. He's from the same general area, but I don't know. Vlade also likes big guys.
He does. That's why he keeps drafting one every year, and it's just not a setup for success. Number 3 is the Hawks. And I went with Marvin Bagley III.
I would agree there.
Even though the roster for Atlanta is already a little heavy on bigs and light on guard and wings, the only real long-term building block they have is John Collins, who's more of a power forward anyways. So, and that's the only real piece they have to build around going forward. I know you're thinking Dennis Schroeder right now. Dennis Schroeder wants out.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't see him being there long term because he just doesn't fit the timeline anyways. They're really in the middle of a rebuild, so I just went with the best available player, and I think Bagley offers the most upside with Doncic off the board. I could make a case for a couple other guys, but I think Bagley has the most upside without medical questions.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because I know you like Porter better there. I know you like Porter better, period.
I do, but I think Atlanta's always going to, at 3, you're going to be a little questionable with medical concerns. So I was going to say, leave him off the board for them, because Bagley's not so far down that you're like, because Bagley's got a high enough ceiling. But speaking of Michael Porter Jr., I do have him going number 4 to the Grizzlies. Just so if anybody thinks I was setting this up for Porter Jr. to drop to the Bulls, I was not. This is legitimately how I would draft if I were these teams. And if I'm the Grizzlies, they have
nothing.
No long-term assets. They have, they've got a combo guard, Dylan Brooks, who averaged about 10, 11 points his rookie year last year for him. But they don't have any wings either. They've got Chandler Parsons, who played like 3 games for $30 million last year. So
you do know Chandler Parsons picks up his paycheck with a mask on, right?
I think it takes one more year of him being completely hurt before he gets to that status. And it's going to drive me nuts that I can't think of that pitcher's name who I started that role with.
Pavano.
Carl Pavano. It was the Carl Pavano rule in my books. But no,
But I just want to bring this up. I thought he was hurt the last year in Dallas, too. I know it's not 3 years with the same team, but...
No, he was actually fairly healthy in Dallas. They just wouldn't pay him because they knew there were health issues, and they weren't going to give him $30 million a year or whatever not ridiculous number it was. I don't think it was quite 30, but it was a big number. And they're like, nah. I also thought about Jaren Jackson just because, again, they need just basically anything at this point. But I think Porter is the one guy who outside of Ayton is a franchise guy, or Doncic. I think those are really your top three. I know everybody wants to throw Bagley in there. I'm not sure Bagley's going to be a franchise center. I think he'll be a really good all-star caliber player, but I don't think he's a franchise guy. But I think Porter gives you a franchise player while also giving you a wing scorer. And you've still got an owner in Memphis who thinks they can compete for the playoffs, which if both Gasol and Connolly are healthy for a full year and Chandler's healthy, and now you add a Michael Porter and you've got Dylan Brooks, they might make a run for a 7 or 8 seed.
Those three people are the three reasons why Porter will not go to this pick. There's no way he could take somebody with a back injury, hip injury right now, who could be iffy when he's got Conley, who I'm not sure when last time he played a full year of basketball.
Like 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
I'd have to look it up.
Parsons hasn't played a full year of basketball, let alone half a year of basketball.
Yeah.
And Gasol's getting a little older, and I can't remember if they just sat him at the end of the year, or did he get hurt himself too?
He got hurt, but I'm still saying, like, again, if it was me, I'm drafting Porter just because he offers me kind of the ability to bridge 2 timelines. He gives me a guy who could be a franchise guy today, or could be a competent scorer today and a franchise guy down the road. I just don't think anybody else gets you there. I don't think Jaren Jackson gets you there. I don't think Mo Bamba gets you there. Those are the other guys that you could look at. But like I said, I'm not as big in Jaren Jackson as some other people are. I know he's been flying up the draft boards and yada, yada, yada. But
so the only other thing with Porter is, what did the doctor say today? I mean, that's really going to decide.
Well, they said Thursday that he could have worked out Friday.
Right.
So whatever the hip issue was, it wasn't too big. I haven't seen what they said today.
I just know
I haven't seen anything new released.
His camp's not the smartest camp in the world when they put out in press release that he couldn't get out of bed, the hip was so bad.
Yeah. Well, and the thing you got to worry about is because he had that discotomy, is a lot of times when you have that, if you're going to have ongoing issues, it usually starts in the hip too, because then the disc, because they did the very minor procedure, the discotomy, where they just kind of peel a little piece of the disc out to try and relieve it. What happens is if it collapses again, then usually you get numbness down your hip. So if it was numbness, that could be an issue on why he couldn't get out. But if it's pain, then I'm not as worried. That could just be pushing yourself too hard to try and prove you're healthy.
So that's the one where I put the big question mark. I think Porter Jr. falls farther down.
I don't. I think teams are going to say, health concerns or not, he offers me the most upside, even if I have to let him have the major back surgery and let him sit for a year. I think teams have seen what the Philadelphia 76ers have been able to do by saying, look, we get their health concerns with Joel Embiid and Nerlens Noel and Ben Simmons. We're still taking these guys. They're the best players there. We're taking them. And if we have to punt for a year or two, we're going to punt for a year or two, and we'll get them when they're healthy, and then we'll get them on that second contract, and then we'll worry about the rest later. So I really think that comes into play. We get number 5 now. Gives us the Mavericks.
Yes. And
this is a team that's been looking for a rim protector ever since they let Tyson Chandler leave after winning the championship in 2011. Rest in peace, game stat line of 8, 9, and 7. Forever be the reason why he can't be the GOAT. Sorry, LeBron. Got to sneak that shot at you.
And by the way, ESPN did his biggest disservice to LeBron in that conversation ever. 2 days after being swept, they played the Game 6 Utah Jazz versus Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan's final shot. And you could see how tired and how he was carrying the team. Everything that LeBron says, I'm tired.
Well, not only the thing people forget when they talk about the shot, they remember the shot. And they remember that. But they're really forgetting the Bulls were down 3 with 38 seconds to go.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Jordan hits a 2, goes down, strips Karl Malone, no timeout, no play calling, dribbles down the floor, says, Byron Russell, you're my bitch, and shakes him right out of his shoes. It wasn't a fucking push-off. Stop whining, Jazz. He barely had his hand on his hip and just flat out crossed him over. It just kind of had his hand there and just squared right up and then knocked down the 2.
Okay, but if you called the timeout, isn't that the exact play you were calling anyway?
Probably. But that's why you don't have to call a timeout. You've got a guy who knows what the play is. You know, because I think if you call the problem, and this is why Phil didn't like to call those timeouts, is the more important thing. You call a timeout, you let them set up their defense. You don't need to do that. You had a team that had already won 5 championships. Jordan and Scotty and Kerr all knew what they needed to do. And George's like, this one's mine. I let Kerr have last year after I'd passed to him. I'm taking this one. But anyway, so like I said, so the Mavericks have been looking for a rim protector for 7 years now. They still want to surround Dirk with as much as they can. They also have Dennis Smith Jr., who you can legitimately call your building block at the point. So I've got him taking Mo Bamba. The man has 7 foot 10 and 3/4 inch wingspan. He can literally stand on the ground and reach his hands up in his 9 feet 8 inches. He can basically touch the rim while standing on the ground, and it's not even a thing. He also ran the 4th fastest clocked 3/4 court sprint ever.
Nice.
And he's been working with one of the best shooting coaches to work on his 3-point shot. So he's kind of what you see as the prototype. I just still think he's very raw all around in basketball. So I don't have him going any higher than 5, although he's my prospect on the rise. But I would say for Dallas, that's the perfect fit.
I agree. There's no conversation. If Mark Cuban could take him out, he would.
If Mo Bamba's there at 5, in reality, that's who the Mavericks are taking. And I feel very easy as the fake general manager of the Mavericks for like 10 more seconds. That's who I'm taking.
Unless Aiden falls to him.
If it was Aiden and Mo Bamba, I'd still put Mo Bamba on Dallas.
Oh, wow.
That's how comfortable I feel with him. Because again, he's a Texas prospect already. I think it's just a perfect fit all around. But like I said, that's not what I'm worried about. No, because I'm going to move on to number 6 with the Orlando Magic. And I know this one's probably the biggest crapshoot in the draft, but with, Ayton and Bamba and Doncic and Porter off the board, I'm going a team that has essentially no guards. I'm taking Trae Young. They've already got several big guys. They've got Jonathan Isaac, who they just signed. They've got Nikola Vukovic, who they've already got to a contract, whether he fits what they want to do long term or not. And then you're probably going to re-sign Aaron Gordon, because you've already got him. So their biggest need in their 10-year rebuilding plan, which is what they're calling it now, that's a pretty generous statement, is shooting and playmaking, because you have none of that anywhere on your roster. So Trae Young is the best for both of those in this draft. He's going to give you the best shooting and the best playmaking. Going to have some turnovers. Going to have some crazy shots. Not going to be able to defend. So you're going to have to hope you can fix that behind him. But again, if you're on a 10-year rebuilding plan, that's the guy I take.
It's an interesting pick. I had him going within the next 2. I mean, I figured the Bulls, or as I believe it, the Knicks after them.
No, after the Bulls, it's the Cavs.
Cavs. When's the next pick?
9.
9. Okay, then I figured in between those 3 is where he was going to go. You have him going a little earlier.
Yeah, like I said, I just think if you really look at where the Magic have and what they need, that's the guy.
Who's their new coach down there?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
I didn't necessarily look at coaches and fits like that. I could have done a little more, but shooting travels in this NBA. I mean, right now they lack it, so in droves. So this will probably be my longest one I wrote notes up on, is number 7, which is the Bulls.
If it's Bridges, I'm killing you.
Which one?
The one from
because I didn't take the one from Villanova. I took the one from Michigan State. I went with Miles Bridges at number 7. Because unlike Garpax, I don't fall in love with these 3 or 4 year players who are high floor, low ceiling guys. I went with a wing that was high ceiling, low floor.
You can only have so many Valentines on your team.
Well, in realistically, as I put down, you're entering your second year rebuilding after training Jimmy Butler. This front office thinks that they're ready to move towards contention already. And I will likely draft a center here. They want to build for NBA 1995, not 2015, 2018. I, on the other hand, acknowledge they have a long way to go and select the best remaining wing to pair with Lauri Markkanen so they can get an asset out of the 2018 NBA draft instead of continuing to build a roster for 1998 NBA as they currently are. I like the upside of Miles compared to Mikal Bridges. And during a rebuild like this, it has to be about upside. You have to take the guy who gives you the greatest chance to be the best player at that spot. You can't start saying, well, we need to find a center to pair next to Markkanen, which is going to lead him to do something ridiculous like a way overdraft Wendell Carter. I know he didn't get to show his full skill set at Duke because he was playing next to Marvin Bagley III. But I think if he was that guy, he wouldn't have chosen to go to Duke where he already knew Marvin Bagley was going. So that tells me enough about Wendell Carter already that you're willing to be that differential. And again, you don't need two bigs like that in the modern NBA. You're not playing 2 7-footers in crunch time in a playoff game. If you do draft a guy like Wendell Carter, your ceiling becomes a 6, 7, or 8 seed. Is that why you traded away a guy who's a franchise player? Just to rebuild to a 6, 7, or 8 seed around Dunn, a way overpaid Zach LaVine, some wing you draft at 22, Denzel Valentine, Bobby Portis, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter. No, it's just not the future you want. Because, again, that team's not going very far.
You wouldn't look off the board for a scorer, such as the kid from Oakland? Or was this too high for him?
I think Miles is a better scorer than you realize.
Well, the kid from Oakland, I can't think of his name. They worked him out really well today, and
he's for 22. He's not for 7.
22?
Yeah.
Because they said Orlando worked him out and Dallas worked him out today, and then the Knicks behind him.
I think some of these teams think they can get him late in the draft.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know who the kid you're talking about from Oakland is.
He was the leading scorer last year in college basketball. That was the headline I seen.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not... Again, this isn't me looking at anybody else or what anybody else is doing. I'm telling you what I would do if I was the GM of these squads. So I don't give a shit what they're doing in real life. I don't care what they're actually looking at. Like I said, I'm not trying to pick who's going to get picked where in this mock draft. I'm telling you who I would if I were these teams. And if I'm the Cleveland Cavaliers, I take Mikal Bridges. Jaren Jackson continues to slide in this mock draft, mainly because, as I've said already, he's being overvalued and likely to be picked too early in this year's draft. The Cavs have to draft as if LeBron is returning and deal with the fallout if he doesn't later. To compete with the Warriors, the Cavs need more shooting and perimeter defense, and Bridges offer both of these and ready to contribute now. While he doesn't offer the upside of some of the remaining players, this has to be the pick if you have any chance of retaining LeBron, as he isn't waiting for prospects to develop. It's just not what you can do if you want to have a shot to keep LeBron. Now, realistically, if they want the best chance of retaining LeBron, you try to package this 8 with somebody else to get a better player who's already in the league, not a young guy. But I think you also have to draft, if you're the Cavs, you have to draft somebody here in case he bolts, because he's likely to bolt.
I was going to say, what same pick if he tells you before the draft that he's gone?
At this point, probably, because there's just not a lot of guys coming after. Because, again, you just can't build guys, who are a lot of the guys that are quality after this are bigs, and I'm just not a huge fan of the bigs at all.
Okay.
Now you're going to make me look on Bleacher Report to see who this kid from Oakland is, because I don't even remember seeing him up anywhere on draft boards.
Oh, yeah, I just caught the headline, and it said there was a guard from Oakland, leading scorer in college, and this year, and teams were working him out hard today. And the people who were doing that were in the top 10 of the draft.
Like I said, I'm looking now because...
And why he looks so... We're going to talk about LeBron James isn't coming back.
I would say it's most likely he's not anyways. I don't think you can safely say he's coming back, but...
Well...
Or he's not, but I said most likely he's not.
Well, as I seen, Gary Payton has come out and said that LeBron James' son's playing high school basketball with his son, and his son is in Los Angeles. Scottie Pippen was asked about it because his son's on the same team, and Scottie Pippen refused to answer the question.
Well, but everybody's making too much out of this LeBron sons playing in L.A. They just built a brand new house in Brentwood. That's where they live most of the time. But it's not going to be... Oh, you want to run and grab me some water real quick?
Yep. Hold on.
All right, and I'm back after that quick water break to get something. And finding Kendrick Nunn, kid from Oakland, who's going to be a high second-round pick, talking about him in 8, 9, or 10 territory. Are you getting crazy here? Let's get out of that. So like I said, anyways, we're going to go with Mikal Bridges at 8, which is going to really upset the Knicks because they wanted one of the two Bridge brothers at 9, who aren't really brothers. But anyways, we're now to the Knicks at 9. I do end Jaren Jackson Jr. slide down the board here. While the Knicks would have preferred one of the two Bridges or Michael Porter Jr., given their lack of wings because they have none, they will be more than happy to add Jaren Jackson Jr. next to KP and Frank Ntilikina, giving them the beginnings of an elite defense and two versatile bigs that you can play together in a modern NBA, because you've got Porzingis who can rim protect and shoot. You have Jaren Jackson who can rim protect and is beginning to learn to shoot. So even though, like I said, I don't think that system works for the Bulls, I think it does help with the Knicks, because I think trying to say that Markkanen's anything like the unicorn in New York is just ridiculous. There's a difference between the Latvian gangbanger and Markkanen. So, I didn't have to put much thought into that one, because you're starting to get into territory now where after Jackson, everything falls off pretty hard. And you get into the Sixers at number 10, and I give them Zaire Smith. The biggest thing that the Sixers have at this point is shooting. Yep. Particularly if you're going to have Ben Simmons running your point, who can't shoot from outside of like 5 feet. And I mean that completely seriously. He can't shoot outside of 5 feet. And Smith has all the tools to be a great spot-up shooter. He plays above average defense, which can help the Sixers as they look to compete with the Celtics and possibly LeBron if he stays in the East, wherever he could stay in the East. He's also effective as an off-the-ball cutter, which will fit well with Ben Simmons, because you can, even if a team's slacking off of Ben Simmons, Embiid's able to shoot the three. So you can have a guy who's a cutter and doesn't need to have the ball in his hands to make plays. And that's not even accounting for Markelle Fultz, who will, as a primary point guard as well, need touches, figuring that he bounces back next season.
You expect him on the team by the end of the draft night?
Fultz, yeah, I do.
Okay.
He's not going anywhere.
Well, he said the only person inside the office that liked him was Colangelo, and with him being gone, that if
the problem is you can't redraft now. You're not going to be able to trade Fultz for Tatum.
No, you're not going to be able to.
But you're not dumping him at this point. You gave up 2 first-round picks. You gave up a future first-rounder that's going to be a valuable first-rounder to move up from 3 to 1 to get him. I agree. He's not who anybody else in that front office wanted. They're not dumping him after 1 year. They're going to give him an offseason to see if he can rebuild his jump shot, because he's working with a new shooting coach. So they're going to see if that pans out. They're not going to dump him for nothing at this point, because nobody's giving up anything to get him.
I would think somebody might gamble on a late first-round pick. He's better than what's there.
But you're not giving him up for a late first-round pick after 1 year. You're not doing that. Okay. You're going to have that same offer if you wait until the middle of the season.
Well,
and by then you can see if he's good or not. Because some team will still offer you a first-round pick at the end of this next upcoming season for him, 2 years in, thinking they could fix him. So you're not dumping him for a 20-something pick.
If the fear is, what happens if he plays worse than he did this year?
It's not going to happen. He played decent. Oh, my God, did Jason Hayward just crush that pitch? See you later. Bye-bye. Hayward is crushing it lately. It's only his 4th home run. He's at like 290 now. And to get way sidetracked. But
contract year.
No, well, I mean, he technically can opt out. He's not opting out this year. Next year he can opt out again. If he puts back-to-back good seasons together, then he might opt out. But one good year is not making up for 2 years of hitting 250 or less. But no, Fultz isn't going anywhere this year. They're not moving him unless somebody gives him something stupid for him, which isn't going to happen. It would take something preposterous, so it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Unless, it's part of like a Kawhi Leonard package or something where let's just not even discuss it. It's not worth wasting valuable airtime on. For number 11, I've got the Charlotte Hornets taking Colin Sexton, which may really seem odd for a team that already has Kemba Walker. But I think as I said, this is a team stuck on the mediocrity treadmill where the Bulls were a few years ago, mainly because Garpax couldn't figure out, hey, we have Jimmy Butler and Mirotic. Maybe we should actually let these two play and play together instead of still running out Taj Gibson at our starting four because we're stuck in 1998. And then we try to add Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade to Jimmy Butler so we don't add shooting around a guy who needs shooters. And we're surprised we're stuck in it. I'm just going to get mad all over again, particularly after as well as Mirotic played as the primary four last year. It showed everything that the Bulls should have been on a timeline to be competitive and adding to it. Instead, they did dumb shit and, didn't surround Butler and Mirotic with the players to make them good. Because realistically, if you look at Butler, Mirotic, and Robin Lopez, you're actually off to a really good start of a team that should be in the top four of the East the way it was. Somehow, Garpax fucked that up.
Okay, back to the Charlotte Hornets.
Anyways, so...
Question. Could Charlotte be in the running for LeBron?
No.
If Michael Jordan made that call to him?
They have no cap room and they have no way to trade for him.
Okay.
They have over 100... I mean, they're...
What the hell? Who are they paying?
They're paying Kemba Walker.
Okay.
They're paying Nicholas Batum.
I forgot Batum.
They're paying Michael Carter... Not Michael Carter Williams. What's the kid from Kentucky that can't shoot, though? Michael Kidd Gilchrist.
Oh, okay. I forgot.
They're paying a couple of different bigs. They're paying one of the brothers. I can't think of what their last name is now.
No, they're paying Dwight.
Paying Dwight Howard. They're paying the other one of the brothers.
No, okay, that explains.
So we got two other white big guys that they're paying too much money to. The one that went to IU.
Mitch can fix it.
I think it's going to be a while. But anyways, so even though there's no obvious need, I think this is the year that they start their roster teardown and trade Walker and then just draft the best player on the board. So their only young player with any upside on their roster right now is Malik Monk. So I think adding Colin Sexton gives you the pieces of a backcourt for the future. Picking at 11 and 10 the last 2 years, I don't think you're getting super high upside guys. But again, when you're drafting 19 and 20-year-olds, it's still hard to tell because you've gotten this mentality in the modern NBA that guys that are 22, 23, 21 are such finished products coming in. It's like, no, they're still very raw at 21, 22,
they're
23.
Old at 21, 22, 23.
I get it. Zach LaVine's about to get his second contract at 23, but do you really want to make that call and pay him $30 million a year this year?
I don't want to pay Zach LaVine anywhere close to $30 million.
I don't either, but that's just where we're at. So
Sexton, just for my clarification, that's the kid from Alabama, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So again, I think this
Score. That's what he is.
A scorer and a playmaker. Not a great shooter yet, but could get there. And again, I think he's just finally setting that direction that says we're going to try and move Kemba Walker and one of these bad contracts for to start rebuilding. We've got to get out of this purgatory. We're headed towards the luxury tax, and we can't afford to pay that to be an 8-seed or miss the playoffs every year.
I have a fix.
There's always a fix, but
I got a quick fix.
Not going to happen.
Come on, he wants to come back and play.
It's not going to happen. He doesn't want to come back and play. I think if he could come back and play when he was 30, now he would, but not at 50 plus.
Oh, I'm not talking MJ.
Oh.
I'm talking about Mamba. The Mamba wants to come back.
Yeah, no. He couldn't play the last year he played either.
Well, he's rested that knee. That knee should be good, and the Achilles should be good.
nobody comes back from those Achilles injuries, which is why some teams are going to be really dumb to pay DeMarcus Cousins anything more than a 1 or 2, maybe a 2-year deal with a team option on the second year would be the right contract for him. But if anybody gives him a long-term deal, they deserve whatever hell they get. Because there is no player to come back from an Achilles injury in the NBA and regain their athleticism. And DeMarcus Cousins is our ready team cancer. So
maybe the Bulls will give him some money. Go big 1 year.
I hope not. I really hope not.
I know you're not a fan of Cousins.
I was a fan of Cousins before the Achilles injury. Players do not come back from this. The closest you have is the wing player that the Mavericks signed a few years ago, and even he's been a shell of himself. Like, once you tear your Achilles in basketball, your career is essentially over. It's unfortunate. It's not like a tear in an ACL. They still haven't found a good way to repair it so you can regain your athleticism. It just doesn't happen.
Who's on the clock?
And now we get the back-to-back Clippers picks. The first one I take Wendell Carter Jr., because if he's here at 12, they're going to jizz all over themselves and say, hey, DeAndre Jordan's most likely to join Chris Paul and Blake Griffin on leaving Los Angeles.
Isn't he a free agent?
He's got to opt out.
Oh, okay.
Technically.
Do they expect him to opt out?
They expect him to opt out and seek long-term money. Even if it's less the first year, they think he wants the long-term deal. And, of course, he still holds out hope that he'll actually find somebody to pay him more than $25 million this year. Apparently, he hasn't watched himself play basketball or seen that the NBA's changed. But with the Lob City clip finished, the Clippers turned the logo free to actually rebuild the roster from the ground up. And that first piece is Wendell Carter Jr. Oh, great era there. Looked like John Lester trying to throw from the mound to a base there.
I like the bounce pass John Lester's starting to use.
Very rarely still. But anyway, so like I said, that first piece is going to be Carter, a young setter, skill set to fit the modern NBA, and the mentality to do what's best for the team if it means sacrificing his personal stats, as we saw him do at Duke. So I think if he's there at 12, like I said, they literally jizz in their pants and make that pick.
Okay. Number 2?
Number 13, I have him taking Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the point guard from Kentucky.
Okay. Didn't recognize his name.
So after taking obviously they take post player 1, they take what I consider stealing from the Bill Simmons lexicon from years and years ago. They take the point guard with the tremendous upside potential. This guy is kind of one of these ultimate boom or bust guys. But you're talking about a point guard who has a 7-foot wingspan. But he's going to have to bulk up because he's 6'6" and weighs 180 pounds.
Does that mean you think they're giving up on the point guard from last year?
Lou Williams?
No. Didn't they get one from Europe last year? Or is he just a backup type player?
I think he's a backup player. I think, if you're turning Jerry West loose, he's going to find guys that, at this point, rebuild as if the roster's starting from scratch. Again, this is the kind of high-risk, high-reward pick that Jerry West has always loved to make. He's never been afraid of just somebody being absolutely horrid if they have the potential to be absolutely great. And I think at 13, that's what you have to look at. Like, all right, what am I gonna be able to grab that helps get me over, gives me the most upside? Talking to a guy at 6'6" that could possibly be your point. In the modern NBA, what more could you want, especially with a 7-foot wingspan? You can let him switch on anybody 1 through 5.
Okay. I buy that one.
Now we get to these teams who were near miss of the playoffs or just into the playoffs. And I'm going to start with the Denver Nuggets at 14.
Denver Nuggets.
I missed the playoffs on the last day of this season. Just barely missed last year. So they're right there at that just miss.
But they don't have anybody on the team that really pops at you, so you got to get something. You got to get somebody there.
And I went with Lonnie Walker the fourth to give them some more scoring punch and a player that can stretch the floor. I think that's one of their biggest things. He's also very good at attacking the rim. And a 6'10" wingspan gives you the tools to be an effective defender at the NBA level. So I think he's a guy that you can partner with, some of their pieces already and try and take that next step. Because this isn't a team that's in the rebuild. This is a team that's kind of young and on the come up. It's still just trying to figure out exactly where they're headed. So I think a wing player like that would fit well.
Well, this is where I'm going to disagree. I think Mo Wagner will be going here.
Who?
From Michigan. Mm-hmm. That's who they've been eyeballing a lot.
I think you'll be disappointed with where he goes in my mock draft.
Second round? Or
I didn't do a second round.
But that's what I'm saying. He's not in your first round.
I don't remember if he got in there or not.
I don't know. That's the highest he'll go is there. But they've been sniffing around a lot. I don't know if they have a second pick in the first round or
they don't.
Okay.
But I think, again, trying to read into what teams are doing or saying right now is a very dangerous territory. And again, I'm just saying who I would take if it was me. I'm taking Lonnie Walker IV. For the Wizards, here's where I make a very interesting pick. That is another one of these tremendous upside potentials. You've already got John Wall and Bradley Beal and Otto Porter Jr. So you have your point, your shooting, and your 3 spot locked down. Like, you're not drafting to replace any of these guys. On the other hand, they have what? Gore Todd at their center. So who do I take? I take one of the biggest swings in the draft, and I take Mitchell Robinson. And I see you look at me like, who the hell is Mitchell Robinson? Because everybody's like, I forgot Mitchell Robinson was the 5-star center who signed on to play at Western Kentucky and signed up for summer school classes and then withdrew after 1 week and just worked out with a trainer all year. So you're talking about a guy who is one of these, again, boomer bust guys. But, the Wizards need bigs in the worst way. And all the big ones are gone. But this guy has the potential to be the best center in this draft. He really does. He was a 5-star. He was one of the top recruits in the country coming out of high school. He averaged 8 blocks a game in high school. 8. Even in high school, that's ridiculous.
Correct. Okay.
So he could easily be the rim protector the Wizards need to help propel them past some of the teams in the East, with some good health and some good luck. They don't need a guy who's going to score a lot. So when he's raw offensively, they don't care. They need a guy who can just take away that rim from the other teams and give away easy buckets.
This would be one of the first times I think this would be a team, if you allowed trades, you'd be trading assets here. Lots of assets to rebuild.
Wizards, I don't think they're there yet. I think all of those guys are young enough. And again, there were some health issues this year. Now, if there's a trade of potential, that they may tweak around the edges, but I don't see them making a big swing this year. I think they give it another year.
Okay.
Particularly, so much depends on what LeBron does this year. If he goes west, a lot of these teams that were sniffing on the edges in the East don't blow up. If he stays in the East, then I think you see the Raptors and Wizards maybe try to alter their timeline. It'd be tough to see. But we move on to number 16 with the Suns because we're already at 40 minutes of this mock draft, which isn't necessarily surprising because it takes time to do these things. But you got the Suns again, and I'm taking Kevin Knox. Again, just a guy who offers absolute highest ceiling at this point. Your team in full rebuild, you're not close. So you're going to have to take as much talent as you can and take as many big swings as you can. Because even at the very top, NBA draft first round's 50-50-ish. So if you just keep taking as many big swings instead of trying to aim for low floors, 1 out of 2 your picks hit, and then you hit a home run.
Okay. Okay.
So, Knox is another wing player who can guard multiple positions, probably 1 through 4. Modern NBA, we've seen with the Celtics, if you compare a Jaylen Brown with a Jason Tatum who can both switch 1 through 4, makes your life a whole lot easier going forward. So I think that's just where they have to go.
I got nothing to say on that one.
I think we're getting to the point of the draft where you're like, who? What?
Yeah, I was like, who on that one?
If you haven't done the research, it's pretty rough. For the Bucks, I have them taking DeAnthony Melton. You're talking about a young team in the Bucks who are ready to try and make that next step. They need more perimeter scoring. And this pick, they're banking on Melton having used his year off due to NCAA eligibility issues to improve his three-point shot. And as a combo guard, he offers the ability, like many of their players, to play multiple positions. I mean, this is an entire franchise who's built their team, other than Eric Bledsoe at this point, on ability to be a 1-2, 2-3, 3-4, 4-5, or in the case of Giannis, 1 through 5 anywhere you want to play today. So I think he adds to that. I guess the only other player I wouldn't call anything that besides a true 5 is Thon Maker.
Yeah.
So him and Bledsoe, but again, Thon Maker could guard 1 through 5. He's athletic enough to guard any of those 5 positions in a switch. So I think, again, a combo guard with perimeter shooting is exactly what the Bucks need. Sorry, again, watching the Cubs-Cardinals game, so I'll apologize. So I think that's one of those easy ones there for me. Again, he's got the tools to be a good three-point shooter. I think he'll be fine. And then we've got the Spurs here at 18, picking pretty high for the Spurs, to be fair.
This one's interesting. I got to see where you go here.
I went with Robert Williams III, strong rebounder and defender who doesn't need the ball much, but is an effective scorer when opportunities present themselves. It'd be a perfect fit for the Spurs next to LaMarcus Aldridge. If there's any coach who could figure out how to make two bigs work in 2018 NBA, it's Greg Popovich. Again, this is all assuming Kawhi Leonard doesn't go anywhere, which I don't think he does. It's not the Spurs' way to cater to a trade demand. Again, LaMarcus Aldridge was able to opt out of his contract last year, wanted to be traded. The Spurs made him blink, and he still re-signed with the Spurs. I know that Kawhi somehow feels like there's an irreparable trust issue because Greg Popovich was calling me out for not playing when I was fully healthy because my team was trying to tell me, to sit out and try and force. It's just not going to happen. If they get overwhelmed with something, I'm sure they'll trade him because they just don't want to deal with the headache at this point. But this concept of, they'll trade him to LA because he'll refuse to sign, is not going to happen. They'll just make him sit for a full year and then make LA be disciplined enough to wait another year to sign people, which could possibly mean not signing LeBron and Paul George this year. I don't see them being that capable. Well,
and you made a point earlier before we got on is he really going to turn down $200 million from...
219. 5 years, $219 million.
That's a lot of money to turn down to go to
4
LA
years and 130, 140.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a difference.
For a man who had an issue because his shoe contract wasn't big enough from Nike, that's a lot of money to turn around.
Well, he didn't sign that shoe contract, so that's part of why I think his team, led by his number 2 agent and his stepfather at this point, are trying to force him into a bigger market because they think they can get that shoe contract up. I think that's going to have the exact opposite effect because if he forces his way to LA super team or the Knicks, at this point everybody's just going to treat him as a petulant child and not give a shit what he does. He's not going to get the money he thinks he's earned.
Nike hands out big contracts. They're not stupid. There's a reason he didn't get the big contract offer.
Well, and again, as I said when we were talking earlier, playing in Oklahoma City didn't stop, Kevin Durant from getting money. Didn't stop Russell Westbrook from getting money. How did I almost blank on Russell Westbrook? It just didn't prevent them from earning. You either are that kind of personality or you're not. He's just not. He's made a career of being almost the quintessential Spurs guy. Quiet, go along, get along, develop, et cetera, et cetera. And he's just not going to suddenly become a LeBron James type personality or a Michael Jordan type personality. Sure as shit, not an Allen Iverson or Russell Westbrook personality. That's just the reality of it. So I see them.
If he turns into Allen Iverson, they need to check his gym bag.
Oh, man. You like Jordan Bell and got some Hennessy in your gym bag? By the way, after that parade, no rapper can rap about Hennessy ever again because they clearly do not love Hennessy as much as Jordan Bell, who hopped off the float, went into a crowd of crazed fans, got some more Hennessy, and got back up on a float because he was out of Hennessy. By the way, that dude should cut a check to Gar Forman and John Paxson every year for 1% of what he makes for them selling him to the Warriors for $3.5 million during a rebuild, because that's who the Bulls front office is. That they somehow view selling a second-round pick with upside as a good idea during a full-on rebuild.
Breathe What's the next? Who's next on the draft board?
Atlanta Hawks are next on the draft board. And here I'm taking a big gamble that, a lot of the mock drafts now have this player falling down into the early second round. But I'm sticking by my theory. When you're in a full-on rebuild, you take swings for the fences, and you have to hope they work out. Or if they don't, you're in a rebuild, and what did you really hurt? You're not a team that's looking to compete now anyways. So I'm going to Anthony Simmons. First off, I just love the name Anthony. I think everybody should be required to name their firstborn son Anthony. It's just a great name. So they've already got a couple of bigs now with me having them take Bagley earlier on and them having one Collins already. So you're getting to add a skilled shooter, even though he didn't play any college. So, that's always hard to tell. Was he dominant shooter and scorer because he was playing against high school players who weren't as skilled? Possibly. But, once upon a time we were taking kids straight out of high school first overall. So it's not such a big stretch to say this is a guy that could have easily, in a different era, been a top 5 pick who you get at 19. I think you shoot your shot and hope it turns out okay. If it doesn't at 19, what did you really lose?
A few $1 million. I mean, that's about it.
Number 20 is the Timberwolves. This is a team that already has one wing that's very unhappy with being the third fiddle, and that their lead player, essentially their franchise guy, in Jimmy Butler at this point, because Karl-Anthony Towns isn't that great, isn't as vocal, is very unhappy with Andrew Wiggins. So going to be hard to trade that big max contract that you just gave Wiggins because he just never developed in the defender everybody thought he would be. But that's kind of what's happened here. So I've got them taking a wing. I have them taking a wing that a lot of talk has been had already, that he was made a guarantee that he would be taken no later than 22 by the Bulls. And I think this is just a double chance for Tom Thibodeau to get back at the Bulls front office one more time and take Chandler Hutchinson. I think it's a perfect fit if you keep or trade Wiggins, either way, because he's a guy who's just a shooter, flat out. And if there's one thing that a wing setup with Jimmy Butler and Andrew Wiggins needs, is actually some shooting.
Right.
So I think it's a perfect time to add it. He's also a 4-year player, so he fits exactly what Tibbs wants. Even though he won't play much as a rookie, that's just who Tom Thibodeau is. But I think that's the best fit there. And we're going to move on to the Jazz at 21. As we get to this stretch of the draft, a lot of these descriptions get a little bit shorter. My reasoning gets a little shorter just because at this point you're getting towards the end of the first round.
This one should be interesting. The Jazz seem to draft really well.
They do. I have them taking Kevin Huerter, Huerter, because I'm sure as hell mispronouncing that, out of Maryland. Even with the impending loss of Derek Favors, because they're not bringing him back, the Jazz can't pass up the chance to add a polished shooter of this caliber this late in the first round. As a Bulls fan, I'm really disappointed by this because I really would have liked this kid to be at the Bulls at 22. But I think, again, the Jazz need some extra shooting. I think he gives them that in droves. And again, it's about as good as you're going to get this late in the draft. And we move on to the Bulls at 22. I have them taking Josh Okogie. With Zach LaVine wanting a max contract despite looking like a sixth man, the Bulls take this opportunity to add a 3-and-D wing who will make it easier to let someone else overpay Zach LaVine for his one skill as an inefficient scorer. So again, I think if you get a chance to add a 3-and-D wing, I like it.
What's the one skill that Zach LaVine has right now?
Inefficient scoring.
Oh.
He likes to score. He's just very inefficient at it. So then we're going to move on to the Pacers. And so these are going to get pretty quick, which I think you'll appreciate given that we're at 53 minutes into this already. We got the Indiana Pacers taking Cry Thomas, Khryi. Pacers looking to add shooting, period. That's what they're looking for. And at 23, he's going to be the best outside shooter you have left. So that's who I've got the Pacers taking.
Not the kid from Villanova, huh? What's D'Anzo?
Dante DiVincenzo.
There you go.
How do you not? Oh, get out of here with that. You gotta know.
I'm a Michigan fan. That's how come I don't know that name.
That's exactly why you should know that name. Because he literally told the entire Michigan roster in the finals, suck my dick from the back.
Well, during the game, his name was asshole, motherfucker, and jackass.
Actually, I have a hunch I may get through this first round without Dante DiVincenzo coming off the board.
Wow. You said shooter. I mean, you said they were looking for a shooter, and he just seems like...
He's a good one, but he ain't Cry Thomas good.
Okay. I don't know who Craig Thomas exactly is. I don't know what school he went to.
Now you gotta make me double look because I didn't write these notes down.
Yeah. So I can't recall seeing him play during the year. But there's so many different names and so many games I've watched through.
Creighton. He's the 6'3" shooting guard out of Creighton.
Okay.
That's right. He's another one I wouldn't mind the Bulls to take, but like I said, I really like Josh Okogie as a 3 and D wing, particularly at that point.
All right, who's up after the Pacers?
You know, and if you can't remember where Okogie played at, it was Georgia Tech. After the Pacers, it's the Portland Trail Blazers, and I haven't taken Troy Brown, so they get to keep a local player local, getting him out of Oregon, and he's a guy who fits what their situation really well, because you got 2 guards already who are kind of both point guards in McCollum and Damian Lillard. And we're back after a quick pause there. So like I said, the Trailblazers get to add a local player whose biggest skill is his defense. And, he can guard 1 through 4. And anytime you have D. Lillard and C.J. McCullough who play as much defense as Jalen Rose's vaunted Olay defense was, I think you need to add a guy like that. So even though there are probably better scorers available, anytime you can add a guy who's technically a 2 guard at 6'7" with a 7-foot-ish wingspan.
Wow.
To D. Lillard and C.J. McCollum, you have to do that.
I'm guessing he's going to play the 3 then?
Probably the 3 and some stretch 4.
Okay.
Now, again, the bigger question gets to be, is he part of this core, or is he part of the roster remake when they break up Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum? Just saying, realistically, we've probably seen the max out of them.
Well, who would trade for either one? I mean, is there a trade partner out there for him?
It really depends on what you're looking for.
Okay.
Because some of the rumors have a potential for the 8th pick and J.R. Smith type guy for McCollum. Mainly because you have to make the salaries get close, within 125. So there gets to be stuff like that as an enticement to try and get LeBron to stay, give him a second playmaker. The problem is somebody, correctly pointed out earlier this week, as you start to look back and you look at the particularly like 96, 97, 98 Bulls, you saw a Jordan who realized he had to let his people around him play as well and make plays if he was going to keep winning. And you've seen LeBron, who, even though he's averaging 8 assists or whatever per game, has really become even more and more ball dominant. So now he's got a ton of guys standing around and looking, and he's not making the most of his players around it. Can Rodney Hood average 16 points a game in Utah this year? They couldn't find a way to get him involved till the last 2 games of the finals, and suddenly they let him make plays himself, and it's like, oh wait, he actually can score again. I forgot about this. So again, there's a lot of rumors flowing out this time of year, and a lot of it's garbage.
Can we just say Tyrone Lue's not the greatest coach out there?
No, he's not. Not at all.
I know, but we make it sound like he's great, and he's not. He allows LeBron to do what he wants. That's why he's great.
That's why he's the coach, because he lets LeBron hold the ball. And that's why David Black got fired, because he's like, look, if we want to be better, we have to make sure everybody gets involved. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't what LeBron wanted to hear. And he kind of got pouty and made the team struggle, and they fired him, and that's going to be what it's going to be. But we're going to move on to the Lakers at 25. takes all the way to number 25 to get our second foreign prospect international player off the board with Dzanza Musa. The Lakers add a scorer who could be useful off the bench, as he can play anywhere from the 1 to 4 and can score in multiple ways. This is the exact kind of player a rebuilding squad ready to move towards contention should be looking to add. Adding him at 25 because that's where you're picking. It's a pick they picked up in a trade. Is exactly what you should be looking to do. Sometimes you're looking for a rotation piece, not necessarily a superstar. With international prospects, it's so hit or miss. But again, anytime you can add a guy who's 6'9" and could play anywhere from 1 to 4 in the modern NBA at 25, I think you've done as good as you can hope for. And then after taking our second international prospect, right here at 26 to the Sixers, I have our third international prospect going right off the board. Starts to be a little bit of a splurge on him. And I thought about Aaron Holiday here. I just don't like him as much as some other people do. I think he's getting a little pumped up because his brother Drew Holiday had such a good playoffs. But I go with Eli Okubo, combo guard out of France, who can shoot a ton. And anytime you're surrounding Simmons and Embiid, as much shooters as you can add would be great. This guy's just 6'3", but has a 6'8" wingspan. So, again, the tools to be an above-average defender anywhere from the 1 to 3. And in the modern NBA, being able to switch into pick-and-roll situations, exactly what you're looking to do.
Okay. Defensive form, and
he can shoot plenty. So it's not like we're talking about a guy who can't shoot.
So he's a 3D guy?
Yep.
Okay.
Imagine that in the NBA, 3-and-D. Well, we're going to talk about. I think that's why. So that when you go back and review this, and what I'll probably do is type this up on the Facebook page for anybody who wants to see not necessarily my reasoning, but at least the 30 picks I made. You're going to see a lot of wings and a lot of 3-and-D guys come off the board, maybe earlier than some other prospects. That's the NBA we're playing in now. Teams want to continue to pretend, there's going to be some renaissance of the big man, and I don't see it. You give me a Shaq-type player, then yeah. DeAndre Ayton is not a Shaq-type player. Mo Bamba is not a Shaq-type player. None of these guys are that can make teams change their future. And at 27, I have the Celtics drafting Keita Bates-Diop out of Ohio State. 6'9" wing player.
Ooh.
Also a very good rebounder, though. This is a guy who's going to be a 3-4, not necessarily a 2-3. So, again, adds to them another 3-4. Although I made a note that this pick's very likely to be traded or a draft and stash because they pretty much have a full roster already. So this isn't, the Celtics aren't looking to add too many people. Yeah, they got a couple players whose contract expires this year, but most of them are going to be brought back. They're going to be looking at healthy rebounds from hopefully
Put in your hot seat. Kyrie Irving, October 1st on the team.
I think so.
Okay.
I think you're going to see both Irving and that's the kid from Butler, Hayward. Oh. I think that's what they're looking for. Just their health and some more development out of Brown and Tatum to put them towards there. Horford's Horford, so I think it's foul ball, isn't it?
Nope. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it is. He was in foul ground. Thank God.
Why is it Javi Baez at third base?
Probably because he's playing second base or shortstop. But, Jesus Christ.
Sure he's in foul territory? Oh.
Yeah, he's completely in foul territory. All right, so that's the thing. Like I said, kind of odd for the Celtics to draft another wing, but it's not really. And at 28, I have the Golden State Warriors taking Jerome Robinson, a large, versatile guard who can shoot the three. Seems unfair that the Warriors get to add another such player to their roster, but that's where they're going. Why can't I find him on this big board right now? I'm trying to see where he went to school. Oh, Boston College. This one technically has him listed as a point guard at 6'5". But again, he was just the kind of player that the Golden State would love to add. Combo guard who can shoot the three. Quite literally their entire roster if they could do it.
Maybe he replaces Swaggy P on the roster?
Pretty much. Because who wants to deal with Swaggy P if you don't have to? Then at 29, I've got the Brooklyn Nets taking Melvin Frazier, the wing out of Tulane. Need everything at the Nets. That's just to be fair. And they're going to take a chance that the improvements Frazier made in scoring, rebounds, assists, and three-point shooting in his junior year are not a blip, but actually a permanent step forward in his game. I think you have to take that chance. If you're the Nets at 29, you take the biggest swing you can. I think that's the reality of that situation. And then we're finally to the end of the first round. And we've got the Atlanta Hawks picking for the third time in the first round.
Okay.
And I have them taking... I wrote down Jacob Evans, and now I'm struggling to find him on this big board.
That don't sound familiar. Did you reach?
Well, I mean, when you're looking at somebody's big board, that's always tough to tell, too.
Right.
No, here he is. He's the wing out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And like I said, for the Hawks with their third first-round pick, they had a more polished three-point shooter after gambling on Anthony Simmons. This guy has a 6'9" wingspan. Gives him the tools to be a solid defender. Explains his solid, 6'9" wingspan at a three position. Kind of explains his solid rebounding in college. And I think this draft haul, if you really look at adding Bagley, Anthony Simmons, and Jacob Evans, really puts the Hawks on an actual path going forward if they can pull off those three picks. So that puts us at an hour 6 on one mock draft. Apologize for that taking so long, and then me not having made as good a notes as I thought I did. I probably should have added the schools that these people came out of when I did my notes. Maybe when I type it up, I'll do that. Maybe I won't. Who cares? Like I said, this is always for me and for my fun and for the rest of you. Thanks for tuning in, though. Always appreciate it. Like I said, share, listen, pass it on. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Play Music. We're on Spotify. There's other places where I'm sure we're at. Like I said, YouTube for sure. On the Facebook fan page. Like the fan page. Subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes and Google Play Music. You can follow us on Spotify. And every week, new episodes will be up there. All the old episodes are there. You can take us with you on your Spotify as you're going to work. Same. Peapod, our Podbean app. Obviously, we're there because that's where I'm hosted. So you can download the Podbean app and find us there. That's really all you need to find us at. Podbean's on iTunes and Android. And with iTunes, if you got an iPhone, why aren't you using anything but iTunes to download that? I don't know. But share us with your friends, neighbors. We've got international listeners, so help us just keep growing and doing what we do. And maybe my short-term unemployment will turn this into full-time employment. We can help. So, peace out.
Bye-bye.